Hello. Hello. Ahoy, ahoy.
This is from the
Welcome.
bunkers. Surviving Snowmageddon 2026.
Snowmageddon is upon us. Trying to stay warm. My heater didn't turn on until 8 p.m. last night.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, I had all my lederhosen on, all my leggings, everything just to keep warm.
Did you have to burn any toys to keep warm?
I would never burn toys. I burn, things I didn't need, like my birth certificate, like tax documents, just things that like I felt are non-essential, just to kind of keep warm. But toys, precious possessions.
You got to preserve, the important things.
Yeah, the important things. Right. Yeah, things that mean the most to me. Yeah, exactly. That's how I identify. I self-identify with toys. Welcome, Figures Not Included, live here, 12 p.m. Nice early special day. Not too early, like a brunch. When's the last time you did brunch?
Like a brunch. What's an early lunch? Is that a brunch?
Yeah. Well, the early lunch, late breakfast. Yeah,
that makes sense.
The Oxford definition of brunch.
So. I got to do more brunches, I guess.
Yeah. But we're excited to do a brunch spectacular. Hope you have a little pancake or a mimosa or something with you, because we have a very, very, very special guest. We met this man 10 years ago. This is 10 years ago, I believe, at San Diego Comic-Con. I know them as a journalist. Yeah, very infamous night. We'll go into all of the dark and gritty details of that night, but
maybe not all of them.
Maybe not all of them. At least the ones that we can remember. But
hardly any for me.
I got to talk to him, and he's awesome. You know him as a journalist from Entertainment Weekly, Vanity Fair, Esquire. If you read anything about Star Wars, MCU, pop culture, whatever have you, you've read his work, and we're excited to have him on. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Breznican, give it up.
Hey guys.
Hello. What's up, buddy?
It's great to be here. I feel like I should dramatically put on my own glasses. Like,
there you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a pleasure to be here with you. Toys and action figures are some of my favorite things that I grew up with. As you said, I write about movies and TV shows and all that, but I think toys are how, when we are kids, and when kids are around, they make up stories with toys. Yeah. Toys are how you create your own little movies in your head and bring them into the world. And so,
for sure. Storytelling at its best. You come up with some really fun. I mean, I remember playing with some, and I remember like even at the end of the whatever story we came up with, we would actually like put all our figures on and like slowly walk away and pretend the credits were rolling, and we would make like some like ending credit music doo-doo in our heads, and we would sing it out, and it was so much fun. So I I totally agree.
Everybody did that. I do that with my own son. He's at that age now where I'm worried he's going to be growing out of the toy thing, but he still loves his Legos. He loves Transformers like I do. Okay. And, that was a great thing about growing up, is using your imagination, and toys are a way of activating that. So
growing up, I don't know this term, growing up. I'm not.
Yeah. Well, some of us, we like to hang back, everybody at their own pace,
Okay. All right. I'm still getting there. I'm only turning 40, guys. Like, let's calm down. I still got my young years ahead of me.
Oh, young. So young.
Yeah, man, excited to have you. So we mentioned it on top of the show that we actually hung out at the Entertainment Weekly after party, whatever, at San Diego Comic-Con. That's how I got to know you. Do you have any memory of that night or how that went? Because I felt like I was a drunken mess trying to talk to you. I was like, "You're so good. I love your writing. Your Star Wars stuff is so great."
No, I thought we had met online first. Didn't
we talked. We spoke online. Yeah.
Because you were Bro Dameron.
Bro Dameron. That's right. Bro Dameron. He came up to me this time. You're like, Bro Dameron. So.
Yeah, I just saw you at the Netflix party for the Emmys. I'm trying to remember. 10 years ago, you were alluding to this infamy that night. I don't remember behaving infamously, so you
did. You were on your best behavior.
I was like, I want to be a professional. I can't.
Oh, you're absolutely.
Tell me about that. I remember meeting you, but like I don't remember you being any kind of way. Like you seem fine to me.
Like I presented
hiding it. He has lots of experience.
Yeah.
He's a functional alcoholic.
It's just it was barely functional. I think we may have had too one too many tequilas because they were passing them out like candy.
We were excited, we were excited to be there. There was so much fun stuff going around, so many fun people to meet and talk to. And yeah, I think we might have, just had a little too much fun. So the memories are a bit foggy.
I worked for Entertainment Weekly for 10 years, and that party at Comic-Con was always a highlight every year because it was so packed with interesting people, because you had a lot of actors and filmmakers and writers and comic book people, those were fun times because everybody was kind of mingled together. There wasn't like a cordoned off section where these are the fancy people. Everybody was there and having fun. And
exactly right. It was just really fun, especially like for us, it was like so saturated with all this kind of pop culture and movies and shows. It was so much fun to just kind of walk around. Everywhere you look, you're like, oh, I know them, Walking Dead, or I know them from X-Men. It's like it was this awesome like experience. Like anywhere you look, there was some reference to some awesome show or movie or whatever that you're really into, and it was just really, really exciting.
It really. Those were good times, man. I'm happy that you remember them fondly, and I'm glad to be here again, making new memories. Although brunch,
that's what we're all about, you were supers. So
you were saying, what's nerdy? What's a nerdy brunch?
What's a nerdy brunch?
I think a nerdy brunch is breakfast at 2 p.m. when you wake up. I can see that. That's a nerdy brunch. That's like you stayed up all night playing video games or watching movies or hanging with your friends. Like, that's a nerdy brunch.
Nice bowl of Fruity Pebbles,
Yeah, there we go.
Sun's going down. It's wintertime and the sun's already going down. You're just getting up. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure.
We're getting some hypothetical questions. Someone says, hello, I have a question, raising their hands. Very polite. I like that. Do you think Keanu Reeves would play a great Darth Revan? That's
right into Star Wars. I mean, it's been out there. He has definitely been fan cast Darth Revan for a while now. So
fan cast for everything.
Well,
yeah, you know what? I don't see him in that way because to me, Keanu's a very present day actor. Like, there's something about his vibe that feels very contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
Actors, they might seem plausibly like they're from a different time, a different place. He seems very rooted in our world. Not that he doesn't do science fiction and fantasy and all that, but he's usually like, there's like a real world atmosphere about him.
Yeah.
And, maybe, I'm not saying no, but I don't know. Wouldn't be my ideal. What do you guys think?
I mean, I love Keanu. He's a cool character, but I see what you're definitely saying. I think especially for Old Republic, maybe someone that has a little more of that kind of ancient presence would be more, appealing for something like that. But, it's a hard one. Revan is such a iconic character now, especially for people who grew up playing those games and just kind of love that lore of the Old Republic stuff. And so, I mean, I don't really know. I'm kind of excited to see if they do go forward with something with Darth Revan, what the actual possibilities are there to kind of help stimulate the imagination.
I also think part of it is my own hang up, because for me, even though I think he's, think of other major roles that Keanu Reeves has played, I think of him traveling through distant times as Ted Theodore Logan. And it's just he always seems a little out of place,
Yeah, you can't disassociate him from he's such an icon of pop culture that
if he's in the High Republic, I just feel like he's like, hey, High Republic dudes, like
exactly.
Be excellent to each other.
Yeah. That would probably go over really well, I think, though. People will respond.
That's a good one. I want to ask you, when did you first start covering Star Wars? What was the first thing you remember?
Let's see. I started covering it when I was a brand new reporter with the Associated Press in 1998. That's when I started, and I was living in Los Angeles. And the AP, for people who don't know, is like a wire service. That means you cover an area and you send your stories around the world, but you don't really publish like a specific newspaper. Your story runs in other publications. So it's like a syndication service. And I was a junior guy. My job was to fix the paper and the coffee. I didn't have to make coffee, but put paper in the copy machines, make sure that the wire, which is an actual series of printers, like running stories out, make sure that was functioning. I'd go out and get man on the street, what we called Vox Pops interviews, like, hey, what do you think about Bill Clinton getting impeached? What do you think about the space shuttle disaster? Whatever I could do to contribute, I did, but I was very low on the totem pole. We were called clerks. Editorial assistants is the term they use nowadays. And I came in, and the young woman who was the previous clerk was being promoted, and so one clerk always trains the next. It's very Jedi-like, right? Like, I'm a Padawan learner, but you're like a Padawan learner for like 2 days, and then you got to get your shit together and start contributing. So her name was Cindy Webb. She was super talented, very smart. One of these like people who's just a couple years older than me, but is like intimidatingly brilliant. And she goes, this is a really legendary position in some ways, because as one clerk trains the other, teaches you the ways of of being an editorial assistant. Part of the lore is that back in the 70s, Mark Hamill had this job. He was working for the Associated Press. And, I always thought that can't be. Maybe it was a Mark Hamill, but it couldn't be the Mark Hamill.
The Mark Hamill.
Or where's the evidence of this? There's no photos of it, Well, a couple years ago, I've interviewed Mark many times over the years now. And at one point we were hanging around, and I got up the nerve to ask him, like, hey, is this true that you used to work for the Associated Press? And he was like, oh, yeah. I was they call it a copy boy. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, they called us clerks. Now they call them editorial assistants. And he was like, yeah, it was good to have a job you didn't really like care about that much, because you could go out and say like, oh, I'm going to go out and get some coffee, or I'm going to go out and buy some supplies and go to an audition. Like you could take care of your acting stuff. And it was very loose.
You found out you truly walked. You found out you truly walked the path of the Jedi.
I guess so. Yeah. So I'm not saying that's where I started, but right away, any chance I got to grab anything that was Star Wars related, with regard to the Phantom Menace was coming out.
Yeah.
I remember I was not an entertainment writer. I was just, like I said, just a clerk. But the guy, his name was Mike Fleeman. He's like, hey, doing a story about the new wave of Star Wars toys, right? All of the Phantom Menace action figures. And I don't know if you remember this. Maybe you were too young at the time, but
I remember
there was like a midnight drop, like a couple of months before the movie came out, where they dropped all the toys out, and people were lined up. They were lined up around the block just for the toy store, right? So the guy covering entertainment, he was older, more established. He doesn't want to be out at midnight interviewing these people waiting in line for a toy store. So he sends a 21-year-old out to do it. I had the best time, man. I bought I had no money.
You got caught up in the wave, right?
I got caught up in it, but he was like, "Listen, buy a couple $100 worth of toys, like $300, and bring them back, and so I can see them." He wanted to like see the toys because he's doing this story about it, and I'm bringing back quotes from the people who are there, like going crazy, waiting in line. And so I bought a whole bunch of stuff, brought it back. He checks it out. I don't think he even opens half of it. And then he's like, "Okay, cool, thanks. Just expenses stuff. And if you want these things, you can have them." And like, so I still had a bunch of those original. I had like the Slave One, the Boba Fett ship, that was I think that was reissued at the time. I can't remember now, because Django was the second. Maybe I got it during the second wave. I can't remember now.
Oh yeah, because they brought it back for that one.
Maybe that was the Attack of the Clones era, and I got it. But I bought a whole bunch of fun stuff, and that was my first time. And then I was out covering the Phantom Menace premiere on the night of its debut at the Chinese theater. So I guess I started there.
Wow, great place to start with Star Wars, like right on the impetus of the prequels.
And like, was that your like interest? Like, were you like, I want to do like entertainment, pop culture type of coverage, or were you just looking for anything and you just kind of fell into that as you were like, assigned to things?
Well, I was a general assignment reporter, so most of the time I was like, they'd send me to City Hall. There's going to be a press conference, cover that, come back. And then as I got older, I got bigger assignments, more more in-depth reporting rather than just showing up, like, because that's just how you train. You send a young newbie out to gather quotes or go to a trial and sit in on that day of trial while the court reporter is out, and you just sort of contribute in that way. But I covered wildfires. There was a big Alaska airplane crash off the coast of Ventura that I helped out with, earthquakes. That kind of stuff was my bread and butter. But then every now and then you'd get a chance to do an entertainment story just because you're living in LA and it's a company town. They'd say, well, we need somebody to do the red carpet at the Emmys. I'm not exactly one of those polished TV people that can do red carpet, but I can, hold a conversation a little bit in that environment with the lights flashing and everybody calling your attention away. Not the best place to do an interview, but like if you can get like a funny quote or an interesting line out of somebody, so I did well with that. And then this became the main event. And then awesome. I would say like most people would begin to know me from covering The Force Awakens. So I was pretty in depth on that.
Yeah.
And, like a lot of journalists, entertainment journalists, I wanted to cover this like very highly secretive J.J. Abrams' first Star Wars movie in a long time. There was something about it too that was promising to go back. Like there was, Mark Hamill was back, Harrison Ford was back, Carrie Fisher,
whole team, the whole squad's back. Yeah.
And were you a big fan of Star Wars, like leading up to this? Like when you were younger, was that something that you enjoyed, and then you got to revisit it when they started doing the Force Awakens stuff, or was it all new to you at the point?
I really hated Star Wars. I just didn't get it. No, I
really.
I was more of a literature type. I like poetry. No, I think I loved it. I grew up with it. My earliest memory of seeing a movie was. It was summertime. I guess I was around 5 years old. We were late to the movie. I didn't really understand. Kids don't really get deadlines and
5.
Yeah, time.
Yeah. I just knew we were late and like everybody was stressed out. And we get to the movie theater and it's hot and we're sweating and we're running into the theater, buying the tickets. And we get in and the movie's already started. The previews are over and it's The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh,
and
okay.
Up on the screen is this snowy landscape with these walkers. We were fairly late for it, if I'm remembering this right. And there's these giant AT-AT walkers in the snow, and it's cold in a movie theater, right? That's what part of the appeal in the summertime is that air conditioning. And so I go in, it's dark. You know how your eyes when you walk into a dark theater from outside,
you need to adjust.
Takes a minute. You can't see anything. It's just all black. And then there's this big giant rectangle in front of me that's lit up with snow and it's cold. And I thought the cold was coming in from that window, right? Like that was like yeah. I'm just like, what? I was like, my mind was blown because I didn't come in and sit in my seat and have my popcorn and then the lights go down. It was just like plunged into the void, total abyss. And this crystal clear image of snow and these giant machines and the cold air hitting me. And I thought, I'm in, like, that's another world. Like, it's like looking through a portal into another dimension. It really blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I love
that's an amazing introductory to look back and say my first, experience of Star Wars was feeling like I was like walking into the actual, world and seeing the, this.
You really feel like you're on another planet. You're in a whole other place, and it just transports you. It's a magic movie.
Transportive. I don't remember getting the toys. I've got a couple pictures of me at Christmas time. It must have been 1980 or 81. And my grandfather, I'm holding 3 packs of action figures, and I can't see what the one is, but one of them is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the other is Han Solo in his snow gear.
Okay.
At Hoth. And like, I'm just a little tyke, and my grandfather is there, like he's holding a Merlin. Do you guys remember the Merlin, that red thing that looks like a phone you play games on from the 80s?
Oh, I do remember that. Yes.
Well, he's holding a Merlin.
Forever.
Yeah, right. So it's a great picture. And so like I've loved it ever since then. My best friend lived 3 doors down from me. His name is Joey Mitchell. And I remember walking to the little corner store with my dad. And here's this kid. He's got like a brown robe on and a stick. And he's like, there was like a little terrace like that led up to his front yard, like railroad ties. And he's up in the yard, and he's got this brown robe, and he's on his knees. He's got a stick, and he goes, me Yoda, Jedi Master. And I look at him. You got to picture these 2 5-year-olds, right? I look at him and I go, shut up. You're not Yoda. Then we keep walking. And my dad goes, why would you talk to him? I'm like, that's not Yoda. I mean, he's pretending. I was like, yeah.
You're trying to fool me.
I know what Yoda looks like. You're not Yoda. He goes, you should go back and apologize to that kid. Because he was right. I was being a dick. So I go back.
You're being a Star Wars purist. You're being a purist. It's okay. You're just so dedicated to the material.
I don't know what I'm thinking, but kids are weird like that. Kids will just tell each other to fuck off, and you don't know what. So I go back and I knock on his door. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm really sorry. I told you to shut up. I like Yoda too. That's good. And that was like, then that kid became my best friend. We used to play. There used to be this game. I think it was called Starfighter or something. It was like a computer game where you would like warp around. It was like you were looking through a cockpit. It would have like the stars that fly at you. We would set that up on my family's computer. This is like, I don't know, like early 80s at some point. And we would like get the basement dark and get that going on the computer. We pretend we were in the Millennium Falcon. Joey's mom made him a Chewbacca outfit for Halloween.
Oh man,
this thing was awesome. Like, I don't know how she did it. It was covered in fur. It had like a plastic thing around the neck that he could stick this head on. He had this big Chewbacca head. And I had like a vest from my first communion party. Like I'd be Han Solo, and like we'd run around the neighborhood, like, being a space, smugglers from Star Wars.
That's amazing.
And then like, I remember Joey just like Chewbacca kind of slows down and he's kind of leaning a little bit. I'm like, what's wrong? He takes off his head. Kid is just like pouring sweat because he's wearing a fur suit in the middle of summer in Pittsburgh, sweating his ass. I think the kid was dehydrated. He needed like salt pills or something.
Yeah. Electrolyte.
Ever since then, like, I'm telling you, I'm sorry to go on so long, but like,
no.
All of these things, Star Wars for me is more than just entertainment. It is wrapped up in friendships and family and holidays and birthday parties and just good times.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. I love hearing those kind of stories where people are really, connected to it. And the fact that later on in years you can go back and you can kind of experience it all differently now as an adult and get to go to the movies and the toys and all that stuff. So that's awesome.
I did when they did the Chewie We're Home trailer, they presented that at Star Wars Celebration. And they asked me, JJ had Abrams and Kathy Kennedy had read something I wrote right when the first trailer came out. And if you remember, that first teaser came out at Thanksgiving, day after Thanksgiving. And on the Monday before Thanksgiving, I get a call from my editor and he goes, hey, there's this rumor that the new Star Wars trailer is going to drop on Friday after Thanksgiving. Can you look into it and see if you can confirm that? And I was like, I can't. And all I had done, everybody at Entertainment Weekly wanted to write about Star Wars, but I had lobbied and made the case that I was the right guy for it. And he had given me the gig. And here I'm saying I can't do it. And that's because I just got a call that my grandmother, who was in her 90s, had just passed away. Mm-hmm. And I was very close to her. And so even though she was very old and it was her time, like I had to go back to Pittsburgh. I have booking a flight. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't get into this.
Yep.
And he understood, and he let me off the hook. And I went back to the funeral. It was a very complicated time. I've got a very complicated family, like a lot of people do. And grandma's funeral was at 10 a.m. on Friday. And that was exactly the same time the trailer dropped, right? So the trailer was pretty far out of my mind. I gave her a eulogy. I said goodbye to Grandma B. And I managed to get through the day without getting into any arguments with family members. That was considered a victory, And I'm very close with my brother, Greg. He's just a couple years younger than I am. And he was happy also. Like the day went off okay. We said goodbye to our grandmother. We loved her very much. We're in our own little town back in Pennsylvania, and it's November. It's snowy, and we're at this church saying goodbye, my brother and I. And off in the distance, you could see the whole little town and this bridge, the Trentham Bridge, connecting my town of New Kensington with the town we were in, Trentham. That's where my grandma lived. And all the little houses were covered in snow. It looked like a little Christmas train layout, you know? And he and I thought, well, now that grandma's gone, we probably won't ever come back here at the same time. And it was like we were saying goodbye to this place that we grew up, this person who'd been major part of us growing up.
Yeah.
And he went off to his car. He was going to fly back to Virginia or drive back to Virginia. I was going to fly back to LA. And as I'm getting to my car, I hear him call back, hey, have you watched it yet? And I was like, no, I haven't watched it yet. I knew exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So he gets out his phone, and we're in the eaves of this church, right? Like this little like entryway, trying to find some shade to look at the screen, you know? And we watched that Force Awakens trailer, and we were like, that looks sweet. That looks so good. You know, those X-Wings flying in over the water.
Yeah.
Oscar in the cockpit, you know. And we watched it a second time, and we were just like so drained, right? So like emotionally drained from the day, but we were just happy and feeling good. And as I was flying back, I typed this this story that I just told you into Facebook, and I posted it. And I said at the end, like, you know, it was like for a minute, my brother and I got to be kids again in the last minutes that we were in the place where we grew up, saying goodbye to the place where we grew up. And what a joy it was to have Star Wars give us that little moment of childhood. And, you know, my grandmother went to church almost every day. So she knew every saint. Every day that there was a saint's day, she knew all the Catholic saints, just like I knew who Hammerhead was, Walrus, you know, Squid Face, Snaggletooth. I knew every action figure. I remember like explaining to her who Hammerhead was. And she would explain to me like who St. Thomas Aquinas was, you know? And I'm like, okay, she had little cards and stuff, you know? I'm like, I get it. It's like the same.
Love it. Yeah. Wow. Amazing story.
So I wrote that, and my editor at Entertainment Weekly saw it on Facebook, and he goes, you know, I'll bet you people would connect to this. I'll bet you a lot of people have that family connection, and you have this interesting story about your connection to Star Wars and your family, and not being able to be there for the moment that the trailer dropped, but being there with to say goodbye to this person you loved. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to post it, and people are going to be like, fuck you, fuck your brother, fuck your grandma. Like they're going to say all this mean stuff. You know, the internet is rough.
And the kindest, most understanding people.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, no, I think people will really like it. I'm always reluctant to put myself in a story. You know, I almost never do that. But anytime I do, for some reason, people do connect to it. He was right. People love that story. And two of the people who loved it were JJ and Kathy Kennedy. Wow. So one day I get a call in this room. I'm in my living room. I get this call, and it's JJ Abrams out of the blue. This is like maybe a week or two after that trailer drops. And he goes, listen, it's JJ. I saw that thing you wrote about your grandmother. I was very close with my grandfather. We all shared that story around here as we're working on putting the movie together. And we were happy that somebody out there got what we were trying to connect with, this notion of like resurrecting some of that good old feeling, you know?
Yeah.
I was just so touched to get the call. And then he goes, wait a minute, Kathy's getting on. I'm like, okay. I knew Kathy from covering Steven Spielberg, and she was always kind of scary because she's so intense, you know, she's brilliant, but she's intense. So Kathy gets on the phone, and she's being so nice. She's like, we love that story. She said the same thing. Like, this is what we're working toward. And they go, listen, we put the trailer out there, and we wanted people to just sort of absorb it a little, but they're talking about it in a way we need to manage. Like they're calling this little robot guy ball droid. Because if you remember, the trailer didn't say that teaser.
It had no name. It was like a beep, boop, 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 you know, thing that was going on.
You know, and he goes, you know, and then they're calling her like the Dusty Girl, and they're using this other name. There was some code name for the character that people had picked up on. They were using that. and they're calling him the Black Stormtrooper. You know, they're calling they're just calling him Oscar Isaac. You know, they're just like we gotta introduce the names,
right?
And I'm like, okay, cool. They're like, so we have something we're gonna send to you, and because you get it, we want you to drop it.
Wow.
So they send me these Topps trading cards images that are made up like the old Topps cards. You know, would have like a picture from the movie and a little line. And again, this is how we enjoyed the movie after the movie. Is you had the trading cards or stickers or a coloring book or the action figure. Like that's how you took the movie out of the theater and brought it into your own home. Mm-hmm. So it would say, I forget, it's like BB-8 rolls away, you know, Finn on the run. Rey powers up her speeder, and like Poe Dameron, you know, in the X-Wing. I'm like, oh my gosh, Poe Dameron, that must be like Edgar Allan Poe Dameron. I'm like Googling Dameron, like where's Dameron?
Yeah, what does it mean? What does it all mean? I don't understand.
And then I look at the email. It came from JJ's assistant, whose name was Morgan Dameron. And I'm like, oh, that's what it is. Yeah, it's a little salute to his helper, to his assistant.
Yeah, I don't remember. This is what they look like. It's the old school vintage style. Yeah.
How'd you pull those up so fast? I'm impressed.
Man, I'm just a whiz.
He's a whiz. They call him the tech whiz.
I couldn't. It would take me an hour to find it, but like that's exactly it. So I got to tell the world Kylo Ren's name, Poe Dameron's name.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then they invited me to do the moderate the panel at Celebration for the Chewie We're Home trailer, and
maybe the greatest trailer ever for Star Wars.
It might be. And I have a great picture of Kathy and JJ like looking up from like from the side of the stage, like looking up at the screen, and the audience out there in the convention center in Anaheim, and like they're just looking up at the screen. It was a great picture of like. It's just a great moment, behind the scenes moment for me.
I like what Josh Brown says, JJ, somebody get me Anthony Breznican.
but when we went down to do the rehearsal for that, I remember it being a really fun collaborative experience because, you know, they weren't sure how much to say about the characters. And so they were asking me like, what do the fans want to know? And I'm like, well, they want to know this and they want to know that. And they want to know the other thing. And it was like, okay, well, we're not telling them that, but we could tell them a little bit, right? Like we could tell them a little bit. And so it was like, okay, well, like who is this stormtrooper? Is he in disguise or is he an actual stormtrooper who's like trying to escape? And I think because the stormtroopers were kind of fascist Nazi type, you know, they're called stormtroopers, right? Like there's something about them that seem very like Empire just seem very like white supremacist, let's say, right? It's got that vibe of the German officers, you know, from World War II. And that was part of the costume design. So that was intentional. So the idea that there's a black man in a stormtrooper suit, that's a little like incongruous. Like you don't
right.
And so saying he was literally John Boyega was playing an actual stormtrooper like that. And also people at that point came to believe the stormtroopers were all clones. He doesn't look like a clone. So who is he? So we had to explain. I was like, let's explain like a little, like he is a stormtrooper who's having a crisis of conscience and he's got to get away. And that's, they don't explain like, you know, why he doesn't look like.
So you were helping fill in that backstory in a way?
Not fill in the backstory, but just to say, this is why people assume he's a rebel in disguise is because he doesn't look like what they come to expect a stormtrooper to look like. He doesn't fit that
idea of what they should look like. Yeah.
That sort of Teutonic, like Nazi commander from Indiana Jones look that all of the all of the officers in the Empire had. So I'm like, you know, let's just say like he's an actual stormtrooper, and then like that'll scratch that itch for people. And who is this girl with the rags, you know, in the desert? Well, we'll say she's her job is to be a scavenger, right? And so we'll explain that. And that this droid comes and it's just sort of like the R2 Luke Skywalker thing,
right?
Where, you know, it helps her on her journey. And they're not going to say too much about Kylo Ren. They really held back on Kylo. But we also brought out Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Anthony Daniels. Harrison was not there because he had just recently crashed his airplane, and he was recovering from that. And the new cast members, Oscar, John, Daisy, were there. The Chewbacca actor, blanking on his name.
Hans.
No.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh my.
Yeah, we spoke with him a lot.
Yeah.
Why is my brain
Jonas?
Jonas, that's right.
Jonas? No, the original guy.
Oh, Peter Mayhew.
Oh, Mayhew.
Peter Mayhew. I don't know why Mayhew was just stuck on my brain isn't firing. I haven't had enough mimosas this morning. He was there, and it was one of his last big appearances. And so the night before, we were going through like what's within bounds, what's out of bounds, because I don't want to spoil their secrets. They don't want to spoil their secrets.
Right.
But you do want to give enough that people don't come away going, I still don't know what this movie is about. And
so did they tell you a lot of it, but you just weren't allowed to say it? Like, did you get like a little bit of a
It's kind of like doing a set visit where they're cluing you in a little bit. And there were some things they didn't tell me and I didn't know. Like I didn't know Kylo Ren was going to be Han Solo's son and Leia's son. Like I didn't know that.
Wait, what?
Yeah. But they'd explain that Poe Dameron, he's this hotshot pilot, like just like Han Solo had like that kind of swagger and bad boy attitude, like that he's got a little bit of that, but he's officially with this, sort of Republic outfit called the Resistance. And I think they revealed the name First Order. They said the name of the planet. I think they said the name of the planet that Rey was on, Jakku. Also, because that was another thing, is like everybody, you see desert in Star Wars, you think Tatooine. So like it's not Tatooine, it's a different place. And so like we were just sort of working that through. And it wasn't like they would tell me something and I'm like, oh my God, we got to tell everybody. It was like, okay, here are my questions. Just as a baseline, like who are we meeting here? And so there was just some give and take there, and we were all hanging out, and then they all wrapped up and went off to the hotel. And Kathy goes, hey, where are you going now? I'm like, oh, I was probably just going to go back to the hotel and like calm down, like rest up. This is super exciting. I'm super stressed about tomorrow. And she's like, well, we're going to have dinner. You should come have dinner with us at the restaurant in the hotel. And I was like, oh my God. I don't know if you guys remember the Mean Joe Green commercial from the 80s. It was like he was one of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and there's this scene where like a kid offers him a Pepsi and he like throws his jersey to the kid. I felt like that kid in the Mean Joe Green. Like Star Wars is inviting me to have a seat at the table. That's awesome. So I go to the dinner. Carrie Fisher is there with her dog. I'm sitting across from JJ and Kathy. Oscar Isaac is off to my right. Peter Mayhew is to my left. Anthony Daniels is down at the other end with Mark Hamill and his wife. And then Daisy, John, a handful of other people. And I was like, this was the greatest feeling ever, because I felt like it looked like one of that table where Han Solo comes in Cloud City and Vader like steals
Darth Vader to be at the head of the table waiting for you.
We've been waiting for you to join us. And like it was like a big long table like that. And man, the conversation was fun. It's been so long that I'm sure that this is not going to hurt anybody's feelings. But Oscar takes out his phone and shows JJ how he's going to look in the new X-Men movie, right? And like, JJ's like mind blown by that, and so I remember my wife called me, and like I answer the phone. I'm like, hello, like I kind of duck away because I don't want to be rude at the table. And she's like, oh yeah, I haven't heard from you. I just want to make sure everything's going okay down there at Anaheim.
You're like, you won't believe this.
I was like, it's going great. I can't talk now though because I'm having dinner with Star Wars.
Star Wars.
And that's what it felt like. Is this thing I had grown up with that I was telling you was tied in with my grandmother, my grandfather, my best friend, all my childhood buddies, like all this experience from being a kid. Like it really felt exciting. And then JJ went from person to person as dessert was being served with a laptop and a big pair of earphones. And I'm like, what is he? It was like he was passing a bong, like everybody's taking a hit off of this laptop. And they show what they're watching is the Chewy We're Home trailer. Nobody had seen it except like Kathy and JJ, but none of the actors had seen it. So like they come to me, like they show it to Peter Mayhew, and then they come to me to watch it because he doesn't want to put it up on a screen. I guess it's probably smart. Like, there was no screen there really, so he's just taking his laptop, and I'm like, Oscar should watch it first. Like, but he's like, no, you go first. And like, I'm sitting there watching it, and man, it was a thing of beauty. It was so cool when you see her shooting across that horizon in the desert, and it looks like there's a mountain range back there, and then you realize like it's a crashed Star Destroyer. Like, there's something about ruins. Guillermo del Toro.
Mysteries of everything, like what's happening. There's so much story just in that one image.
Mm-hmm. Guillermo del Toro talked about this with Frankenstein. Again, Oscar Isaac. Okay, he's a friend of the show, right? We can bring him up.
Not really, though. But, we've invited him
debatable
offers a few times, but we'll get
all right. We'll keep. I heard you have a good connection to him, so you keep working that. But like, what Guillermo talked about was, all of the events that are transpiring in this movie Frankenstein are futuristic. It's science fiction. It's advanced technology bringing dead tissue back to life, but it's all rooted in these ancient feelings. So he wanted it to be around ruins. Every location had to be ruins. The lab is in the ruins of an old water tower. A water tower gives life to its community, and it's all tied in psychologically. When you see ruins, something existed here before. What's there now? And that's what that trailer did. So that's a long answer to your first question, but that's how I got started covering Star Wars.
That's an amazing answer. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, just like, and we have a direct family connection, right, to Star Wars. But even before that, it was always still part of our DNA. Our uncle was a big collector, and he watched the movies when he was a kid, and so that sort of passed down. Star Wars about like passing down trauma and all those kind of things, different things of your family. It's such a family-oriented story that we got passed down like the love for Star Wars, and going to the Midnight Madness toy drops and lining up to see the movies as well, and that was all part of it. And so
it was fun because being collectors, being fans of the franchise and just pop culture and all that, and then being able to, like you said, bring home a piece of that, those things that you love, like the action figures or the cards or any of these collectibles are out there. And that's, I think why so many people in this community love collecting and bringing home all those things, because it keeps that connection of that thing you loved. And it also spreads to like the nostalgia. And like you said, about like going back to your childhood, to those wonderful memories. And you get to keep that with you in a little bit with these little, plastic figurines. And it's just a nice feeling to look up and see those or play with them in your hand. And you just get these like emotional connections of that joy you had as a kid and all this fun stuff, these great memories that these franchises have brought you over the years.
You said like that thing about emotional trauma and things you pass down. Families pass down a lot of bad shit to each other, but it's important to remember the good things too.
Yeah.
And the joy of seeing a movie when you're young, especially with an older relative, and you're both brought to the same place of being like, in some ways, the adult is brought back to being a kid, seeing an Indiana Jones movie or a Star Wars movie or a Star Trek movie, anything like that, that takes you and makes you feel like you're a kid sitting around the campfire hearing a story. That's a wonderful thing. But also, as a kid, sometimes you get the opposite effect where you feel older, right? You're seeing something that's a little edgy, a little scary. E.T. makes you feel this way. E.T. feels pretty heavy at times.
Oh, yeah.
And it challenges the viewer. And especially if you're a little kid. I've interviewed Steven Spielberg many, many times. And one story he told me always stands out is that I was talking to him about when his kids, he has many kids, I think 8, 9 kids, and now he has a bunch of grandkids. I was like, when do your people in your family see these movies? And he goes, I just recently showed E.T. to my grandson, who was, again, about 6, 7. I think he said he was 6 years old. And I was like, well, that's the age I was when I saw E.T. for the first time. Steven's like, oh my God, don't tell me that. It makes me realize how much time has passed. But he's telling me about showing the movie to his 6-year-old grandson. And he goes, I got worried because there's this scene where E.T. goes missing and then they find him in the stream and he's all pale and white. Oh. And he says, I said to my grandson, like, this scene is coming up. E.T. is going to be found in a stream and he's going to look dead. He's going to look like a dead fish, all white and pale, but don't worry. He's going to be okay. And the kid goes, Grandpa, can you stop ruining this movie?
That's funny. But it's true. I remember
give kids more credit, they're
yeah.
And he realized like, oh, I'm trying to soften the blow that I just pounded home on a generation of kids in the 80s.
Right.
I shocked the hell out of like every kid in America back in 1982.
Yeah. That was one of the first movies my mom took us to see in the movie theater was E.T. And I remember I was little. I must have been like 5 years old. And I remember feeling, very kind of like I'm watching something severe here, something very traumatic, because you've been watching this movie where you see this like wonderful little alien and it's all fun and nice. And then it gets really scary for him. And then you kind of like fear that fear along with him. But, like, I don't know, going through those emotions and then eventually seeing him at the end go home with his parents, there was like a journey of emotions that you went through that kind of helps like develop those feelings as small children, so
absolutely
I think kids can definitely handle that and learn from those experiences through movies.
But you go see a movie with your uncle or your grandfather or your dad or your mom or your aunt, grandma, whoever it is, and like they get to be a kid again and you get to feel a little older and it puts you on the same plane, puts you it's like doing a job together. Like you're both contributing something, you're both experiencing something. And I think those experiences can be so powerful and so positive. I mentioned I have a kind of complicated family. I don't think we're unusual in most ways, but some of the happiest memories I have are seeing movies with members of my family where, I remember so many of them. And it's funny how you could forget so many other things. So much of our lives, if you think about it, we're remembering little touchstones here and there. Yeah. And for me, movies were like a bookmark on that moment. And I'm really grateful to the Star Wars movies for all they have given me. And whenever I write about it, I try to keep that in mind for the fans. When I was writing about The Force Awakens, I interviewed Lawrence Kasdan, who had done the screenplay for that. And, he had done Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And it wasn't produced yet, but he had written the Han Solo movie. And I had asked him I forget what the question was, but it was something pretty nerdy and about the lore of Star Wars and exploring how this new movie connects with the lore. And he kind of paused for a moment and he goes, you have to forgive me because I don't know a lot about Star Wars. I just wrote most of the movies.
That's interesting. Okay.
Every now and then, Star Wars fans will get mad at me. I remember at one point I was writing about I think it was like the Aftermath book or something that was sort of trying to bridge The Force Awakens with Return of the Jedi
yes.
And it had Mon Calamari, like a scene with some Mon Calamari. Mm-hmm. And I noted like, oh, this is the first we've seen the Mon Calamari since Admiral Akbar in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And like a couple of people got really pissed off at me online and they're like, there's a whole delegation of Mon Calamari in the background of this one scene in Revenge of the Sith, when they're in the Senate and there's all those little pods.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
Mon Calamari erasure. I won't stand for it.
I know. And they were like, that, it has been seen before. And I'm like, okay, all right. Like,
my bad.
You got me. It wasn't like that was a major character, but okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But also like, look, if I knew every little bit of lore like that, I probably couldn't write about it in a way that connects with the general fans.
Right.
And, and that's what Lawrence Kasdan's answer to me reminded me of. It's like, I think sometimes you can be so deep into the lore. And I'm not criticizing people who are, but I'm saying if you're that deep into it, sometimes it's like being a super duper expert on brain surgery. It's probably hard for you to talk about brain surgery with a layperson, right? Like, because you're just so deep and steeped in it. And I think,
man, Ed's very smart. Ed can talk about anything. So
part of especially brain surgery.
Part of my job, I think, is to be a bridge between the creators, the deep lore, and the casual fans who come in and go, okay, where's Yoda? Where's Darth Vader?
Yeah.
Like, no, this is 30 years later. Like, and so
they're like, okay, where's Vader? Where's Vader?
Yeah, but like when Rogue One came out, I remember, these are intelligent friends of mine who were like, wait a minute, where's Rey and Finn and Poe Dameron? And I'm like, no, this isn't a sequel to Force Awakens. This is before the first movie. And we have to remember that these movies, if they relied only on the hardcore fan base, they would be very small hits and they would not get made at all because you need to earn so much back from it. You have to appeal to the broadest possible audience. And that means people who don't know that the Mon Calamari showed up as a delegation in Revenge of the Sith.
Right. Do you think that
I should have known. I should have known.
Yeah. It's your fault. It's your bad. It's your bad. But do you think that, I was going to ask you, so like Kathleen Kennedy era is now officially done. Dave Filoni is going to be taking over. How would you encapsulate or how would you describe the Kathleen Kennedy era with Star Wars? How would you best describe it?
I think Kathy gets a lot of shit undeservedly. I think she did a great job of resurrecting Star Wars. And I love The Force Awakens. I love The Last Jedi. I love Rogue One. I love Solo. I think that's a good flick. I think there's a lot of criticism about The Rise of Skywalker, and I think the problem there was Disney putting pressure to rush it out. And they had to have, if you think about it, George did a movie every 3 years, and that was a pretty tight pace. I think that probably would be a good pace to have kept up, but they were doing a movie a year. And I think they got too much pressure. I wouldn't put that blame on her. I don't think any other producer could have gotten could have jump-started Star Wars the way she did. And I also think she deserves credit for opening up Star Wars to other people. It's not just white, black, Latino, or any of that. Like, that's important too. But I think one of the most important things she did was say, I would like a young girl to be the lead of this new movie. And she discovers that she has some sort of Jedi powers. Because I think the Jedi at that point so many of them were just men. I know the prequels had female Jedi and all that, but the idea that this will be our main character, this young woman, I think that did so much good for the world, for the fandom, and it really just opened up that universe. And I don't agree with the South Park thing that she made it somehow woke. I think she just tried to say, like, let's invite everybody to play. Let's make a concerted effort.
Sandbox, so many people to create.
And I don't think it was preachy. I don't think it took anything away. People call Rey a Mary Sue. She's no more of a Mary Sue than Luke Skywalker. Yeah, he's bullseyeing womp rats back on his own planet, but he learned how to fly an X-Wing pretty damn fast, and connected with the Force and saved the universe. Like there's always a little bit of an exponential learning curve that heroes go through. I think she deserves a lot of credit for what she did, launching The Mandalorian. She deserves a ton of credit for protecting Andor and making sure that Tony Gilroy could make Andor the way he saw fit. She elevated Dave Filoni, who I think knows Star Wars better than anybody. He's tied in as the apprentice to George Lucas, who worked with the originator himself on the Clone Wars. And I think she deserves a ton of credit. It's not to say that everything worked perfectly. I think where she probably deserves a fair amount of criticism, or maybe fell short in some ways, is it's a problem that there hasn't been a new movie in 6 years, you know?
Right.
And I think, why didn't that happen? We would hear so much about different movie projects that were announced.
Yeah, what have you heard internally in terms of why we're at this place now?
I think it was at first pressure to create new content every year, new movies, and then new television shows.
The
and that
MCU
pressure,
problem kind of thing.
yeah, like the MCU could make 2 movies a year. Well, yeah, okay, and then, but the thing you have to realize is that people get burned out. Star Wars went away in the late 80s, and nobody was into it. They weren't selling toys. I remember seeing a rack of discounted Star Wars toys. They were like 90% off, right?
Mhm.
Old action figures and Hoth battle sets. And I was like, I wonder what chump is going to spend 33 cents for this action figure. Well, I would be sitting pretty if I'd bought all of those and put them into storage, because they're collector's items now. And then when I was in college, about 10 years later, and they reissue Star Wars and put it on the big screen, you go, oh, enough time has passed that this is wonderful, and I love it, and I care about it again. And I think Star Wars, it's like a Velcro strap that you take on and off too many times. It just starts to lose its stickiness,
Yeah.
And I think they rushed it. I think the Rise of Skywalker left a bad taste in the mouths of some people. And I think, I don't put all that on Kathy, though. She was doing what she was hired to do with the owner of the property, what Disney wanted her to do.
Mhm.
But then they took their foot off the gas and said, okay, we overdid it. Let's focus on these TV shows. And then I think it's almost like maybe a paralysis sets in, where no idea seems good enough.
Right.
And you've got Damon Lindelof suggesting things like, let's do a story where Rey is an old woman and she's played by Helen Mirren. And it's years in the future. And I think, like, that's a cool idea. This Steven Soderbergh idea about Kylo Ren, like, I don't know, that sounds like a cool idea.
Yeah, what have you heard about that? The rise or the hunt for Ben Solo.
I've heard what you've heard, which is that this was an idea that was proposed, and Lucasfilm was kind of high on it, and then Disney turned it down. Now you got to figure Disney I think they just do not want to spoil this property. And I think after Rise of Skywalker, Disney was like, oh, maybe we pushed them too hard, right? And that leads the decision makers who are above Kathy, who are essentially like greenlighting these movies that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, like, suddenly nothing's good enough. I experienced this on a smaller scale in magazine work, where, we need a cover for the TV issue at Vanity Fair. What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, how about we do we'll get the first look at Stranger Things season 5 and the cultural phenomenon of wrapping up the show. And it's like, oh no, that's not big enough. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, that's not big enough? Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And then nothing is good enough. Like, nothing can live up. And then you end up having
bring back that comment, Mikey, that you put up just now. This was one that I was thinking as we were saying that, like, Star Wars had kind of disappeared there between like the end of the 80s into the prequels. But it definitely disappeared from mainstream. But Star Wars continued a lot, and I know a lot of fans, and we have a buddy who's like really hardcore into like the books and the comics and all those extra stories that were in there that had some actually pretty amazing stories that were kind of scrapped when they started to reinvent Star Wars with The Force Awakens. And my question is, like, you say the lack of ideas or good content, but there was a lot to pull from there. And my question to you is, like, I don't know if you heard anything, or do you know why was it never considered to? And I noticed that there has been like elements pulled down, like we saw Thrawn come back in Ahsoka. We saw, some elements from those, comics and books make their way out of there into the newer things. But why do you think that with the lack of like new ideas, they didn't consider going like the Timothy Zahn books that were so popular? that to go and kind of even either recreate that into movies or just kind of pull more ideas from there to kind of fill that need for stories that have already been kind of tried and true and that people have enjoyed, and that they could have made something that was a little more cohesive and, you know, understood already in the Star Wars world because of all the people, the fans that were there reading those books and comics.
I think I love the Tim Zahn books, and if you talk to Dave Filoni, he loves Star Wars. He's about our age, and he loves Star Wars. And then Star Wars, like I said, it went away. Return of the Jedi. There was like, I don't know, what was that little Ewok movie? It was on TV.
Return to Endor.
Return to Endor. Like there was a couple little things here and there, but it really went quiet. It went dormant, went into hibernation, and then those Tim Zahn books come out, and I want to say that was like, is that like 1990 or 92?
Yeah, it was early 90s.
And I remember getting that first book and reading it. We were on vacation with my family and reading it at the beach and being like, man, this feels like Star Wars again. This does feel like it's back. And I love that trilogy. And I think I remember when they announced that they're going to do this new series of films in 2012. I reached out to Timothy Zahn and I did an interview with him about it. And he was like, I don't know, man. They have the books, but I don't know. I'm doing Timothy Zahn doesn't have a gravelly voice. I don't know why. I don't know why they're. He goes, I don't know. Like they can pull from them if they want, but you know, I don't really have any idea. But my job was to try and like talk to George and come up with like a story. But George didn't really write those himself, and George had his own idea for sequels
for 7 to 9.
Yeah, that he left behind that were going to be about Vader's descendants, which is ultimately what the sequels are about. But I think it's the same thing as we were talking about kids playing with the toys. If you sit down with a kid and you give them a bunch of action figures and they know the movies, kids are not good at making up characters, right? They're good at making up stories, but a kid is very self-absorbed. You don't have a lot of empathy as a child. You know what I mean? Like you're just trying to figure out who you are, and then you can figure out who other people are and what the world is. So it's very hard to think outside yourself and make different characters. But if those characters are introduced to you, if you know who Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Darth Vader are, you could make up a story along. If you know who Optimus Prime and Megatron are, you can make up a story about their conflict. If you know that this jet is Starscream, who's gray, and this one is Thundercracker, who's blue, and this one's Skywarp, who's black, you can have 3 of the same damn toys, and they are different characters to you. You know, it's brilliant toy making and toy selling because now you got to buy all the characters so that you can expand your storytelling ability. And I think if you give those toys to a kid and they kind of know who the characters are, then they make up their own story. That's fun. If you give those toys to a kid and they know who the characters are and you go, okay, now Han Solo has to do this and Luke Skywalker has to do that and Snagglepuss has to do this. Snaggletooth has to do this. Kids, they lose interest in that game, right? Because you're telling me like, I gotta stick to this. So I think the same thing happens with the adult storytellers who came to write the new movies. They don't want to go, oh, here's what the Zahn books did, so we have to adapt them. George made it clear that the books were an extension of the universe, but were not official. You know, he did not believe in this strict canon across comic books and books. Those were sort of separate products. Yeah. And he would weigh in and say things like, hey, in The Force Unleashed, the Force is not powerful that you could stop a Star Destroyer from taking off. And the creators of that game really had to lobby him to say, well, please, but it would be really cool if it did. And so he allowed that. But he would sort of set parameters and he might say yes or no to certain ideas. But otherwise, he let people play and make up their own stories. And I think that's what the new storytellers want to do. And if you want to get a director worth anything, you've got to let them make up the story how they want to make it up.
Yeah.
And tell and And that, I think, is why they didn't stick to the Zahn books. But Dave Filoni, to his credit, said, here's what I remember and what I really liked about the Zahn books. Let's take those characters and reintroduce them in a way that it fits into the tapestry of what we're creating. And I think if you love the Zahn books, they're still there. There's like a whole series of Lando books. You know, in the Solo movie, when Donald Glover stays back in the Falcon and he's like dictating his memoirs, he's dictating a story that is from a published novel from like the early 1980s that had like the Lando Calrissian adventures.
Oh, wow.
You know? Like he's telling that story. It's from a book that is part of the legends. It's not part of the canon. And it sort of recanonizes that, right? So, you know, those books are still enjoyable. It's sort of like reading the book and then enjoying a movie adaptation, and there's differences between them. Right. They don't have to be totally in sync to say, I love The Shining, the novel, and I love the Stanley Kubrick movie. There's differences. One, the hotel survives. One, the hotel doesn't. Like, that's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay to have difference. And so I think those Zahn books are still in print. They've not been taken away. They're part of the legends. And I love the thing that Filoni added to, I can't remember, I think it was in the Clone Wars, or it might have been Rebels, where Yoda says, you know, there's always a bit of truth in legends. And so, you know, legends are what Rey heard about Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
So what's real, what's not, it's all, whatever you're reading and enjoying or watching at the moment, that's real. Enjoy it. It's there. Yeah. It's there for you. And so I love that they've brought Zahn back. He has contributed so much to the Star Wars mythology, and it's all still exists. It's all still present. And yet they've taken pieces of it. They've taken those action figures and made their new stories with the Ahsoka show. And again, getting back to Kathy, you look at the stuff she did. Most of the movies worked. They were huge blockbusters. Most of the shows worked. You might quibble with the ending of Obi-Wan, or not like this particular season of The Mandalorian as much as that particular season. But overall, that stuff has been really fun and enjoyable. It's just, we have very high standards, and it's okay not to like everything. People didn't necessarily love things in Return of the Jedi. They will say they loved Empire Strikes Back, but I guarantee you there were people who were like, what? Darth Vader is Luke's father? Like, that can't be. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Definitely were those people. They just didn't have a platform to, you know, tell the world their view. But that would have been super divisive. With the modern internet. And so I think she deserves a lot of credit for doing really well, having a lot of successes. There were some things that fell short. I think when they don't work, people get gun shy, they get risk averse, and then paralysis sets in. And I think what we need now is to say, okay, how do we break that paralysis? How do we reconnect with the fans? Because you're never going to please everyone.
Right.
And maybe the fans can play their part by like cooling it a little. If you don't love this particular show, that's okay. Maybe it's not for you, but you might like this other thing more. And I think as long as they keep creating a diversity of stories, diversity meaning not just like identity and all that, but like some shows like Andor that are meant for like an older, more sophisticated audience, where you get like a kind of Jean Le Carré spy thriller in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
And
like even now, like the new Darth Maul cartoon that's coming out, you know,
and things like the Freemaker adventures, which are like, if you're a little kid and you just like the funny Lego, you enjoy the Lego version of Star Wars, where Palpatine is kind of like this crazy boss, and Vader is a little bit hapless. Like, I think you have to be able to embrace all those things. And if not embrace them, let them be. Let the fans enjoy this stuff. I dug the new Darth Maul trailer that we've got showing right there. I want to see a gangster story in the Star Wars universe. And so if this gives me that, I'm happy. I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, I think a lot of people wanted to see something like that when at the end of Solo that had Darth Maul appear, and it was going to supposedly continue that storyline with Emilia Clarke's character and everything. So, I mean, that's a really cool thing. And I think a lot of people are hoping that this show will have those elements in there and can kind of, you know, give us that kind of more of an underworld, you know, like you're saying, type of, show. So I'm excited to see it. I think it looks fantastic. I love that Sam, what is it?
Witwer.
Yeah.
Whitworth is coming back and doing the voice. So yeah, I mean, I think that looks good. And my question also is like, so now that we see this as like the kind of beginning of Filoni, and I mean, he already has an amazing track record with what he's done prior to this. But where do you think Star Wars is going to go, well, with him at the head?
It's a very good question. I think my hope is that he will open up to other storytellers in the same way that George opened up to him, and where he can make suggestions. He knows it. He loves it. And I would say, not that he asked me for advice, but if I were to give some to Dave, I would say, let your love of Star Wars be your guide, not your knowledge of Star Wars, right? Don't say this is possible, that's not possible. Think about, like, I love this thing. I have a deep affection for it. I know it really well, but I want to hear how you vibe on it. As he's bringing, as a chief creative director now co-president of the company, he's going to be he can't make everything himself. So he has to let his love of it guide his decisions. Like, if you hear a pitch from somebody and you love it, don't worry so much about whether it connects to this or that, or whether the puzzle pieces fit together. I think breaking that notion that everything has to be canon and tightly wound together is too restrictive. Just say, this is a show for younger kids. This is a show for older people, for everybody. This is a show for more sophisticated people. I hope he'll open up and embrace all the different genres and figure out ways that they can fit onto the Star Wars lore. I'd love to see a Star Wars horror movie.
That'd be great.
It doesn't have to be super blood and guts, but like, I remember seeing a concept for a droid. Like, there's a lot of cyborgs in Star Wars. People like Darth Vader, he gets the mechanical limbs and he's got a breathing apparatus. This was a robot. I think it was in one of the video games, and it was scrapped, so you never saw it, but it was in like one of those concept art books. It was a robot that had like a skull in a jar, and it was trying to add organic elements to itself and be somehow living. And I was like, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
You couldn't have that in a contemporary, like, on our planet Earth horror movie. I mean, I guess you could, but like, that fits perfectly with Star Wars because you have these sentient droids, droid that wants to be human and is grafting things like that. That has like, that's got some Norman Bates stuff, like Buffalo Bob from Silence of the Lambs. Like, I'm going to wear your skin. Like, like that. That'd be kind of cool. And it doesn't have to be the most harrowing experience ever, but just that vibe.
Or connect it to the main storyline. It's its own else.
Maybe you should try your hand at screenplay.
Well, I don't know.
I love where you were going with it. So
I'd love to see a romantic comedy in the Star Wars universe. Right?
Yeah,
that'd be funny. I've always said that Oscar should do a romantic comedy.
When Bib met Twi'lek, or something like that. So,
well, Poe Dameron, he's got his future is wide open. He's got an unchecked horizon in front of him. Like, where does he go? Who's he with? What's his? I could see him being in a
maybe he's in like
any number of stories.
Yeah, he can be like in a Vicky Cristina Barcelona type of Star Wars.
I mean, like, love triangle. There was a little bit of that in Solo, where femme fatale kind of leads him astray. Straight up gangster story. Like, I'd love to see something like that with the Hutts and all those different families.
Right, which I guess you're kind of getting, right? I mean, Hutt coming back in the form with Jeremy Allen White, which is interesting casting for a Hutt.
Well, I have a ton of faith in Sean Levy. And again, this is where Kathy deserves credit. I do think she got the machine up and running. I don't believe she would have stepped back if Lucasfilm was in the lurch. She's got The Mandalorian and Grogu coming out, so that there will be more movies that's in the pipeline. You got Sean Levy and Ryan Gosling with this Starfighter movie. I have very high hopes for that. Sean Levy is another guy, like he is one of our brothers. Like he loves this Star Wars universe as deeply as you and I do. And I have a ton of faith in him to bring something cool to the screen.
How important is that movie for it to really hit? To kind of,
I think it's critical, except you can't think that way if you're, I mean, we could think that way as fans, but it's not healthy because then you put such expectation on it. It can't be great. It has to be mind-blowing and mind-bending in the way that the original Star Wars was. And like nothing is going to be the original. You're playing in a universe that has existed for 50 years. So you are, the originality is the challenge. Is we all know what the X-Wings can do. We've seen them in stories. But what can you do with a pilot in this galaxy now that's different? And I think that's the challenge, is trying to find stories, and I think tapping into universal stories. And I don't mean to plug my own work, but I have a book coming out in the spring. It's called Star Wars Icons, Darth Vader. It's one of those books that the three of us could maybe lift together. It's huge. It's like it's a coffee table book. It's 200,000 words. It's the evolution of Darth Vader from elements of George's real life, his relationship with his father, the accident that nearly killed him when he was 18, the early drafts of the screenplay where the Luke Skywalker character was not trying to save Princess Leia. He was trying to save his own father from the clutches of the Empire. And then the father character goes and gets replaced by this princess, and then eventually becomes his father. Like he was always trying to save his father or avenge his father in the early drafts. And George had this feeling that his own father, who ran an office supply business in Northern California, had somehow sold out, that he had lost his vitality, had given his life over to a 9-to-5 job that really took everything from him, and it paid him well. He made money, but it wasn't what George wanted to do. George wanted to make movies and have adventures and race cars, and he defied his father who built this business from the Depression on out of nothing, out of the dusty remnants of a stationery shop in Modesto, California. He was ready to hand this $1 million business to his son, who flatly rejected it and went off to LA to make movies. And George Sr. just was waiting for his movies to fail. THX 1138 almost did the job. It did not do well at the box office. And then it sounded like American Graffiti was going to go straight to TV and his filmmaking career would be over. George Jr. might come back and run that office supply business yet. But then Graffiti became this huge hit. George got the deal to make Star Wars. And the same month, George leaves California to go to London to shoot Star Wars. His father gives an interview to the Modesto Bee and says, well, I'm closing up shop. It was like a local businessman profile, And he goes, well, I'm closing up shop after 30, 40 years, and I'm going to be retiring. And so just as his father's empire was shutting down, George's was opening up. And that was the moment George Sr. realized, he's not coming back. He's off to the races. And so Darth Vader, when I heard this story from George, I said, forgive me, but this sounds like join me and together we'll rule the office supply galaxy of Northern California. And George's answer was like, I didn't realize it at the time, but yeah, these were the feelings I was working through.
Yeah.
And I think, so that's all in the Darth Vader book, but then it's David Prowse, it's James Earl Jones. Everybody has an interesting story, often involving a father, sometimes a father who's not present, sometimes a father who is present, sometimes a father who you want to be like, sometimes a father you don't want to be like. Everybody has a father in their life in some capacity that guides them. And so this book has all those stories. Lawrence Kasdan has an interesting story, a very moving story about his father that relates to how he came to be part of the Star Wars universe. And all the way through Hayden Christensen and the current movies, explore like what people contribute of themselves to these characters. So I hope that Dave Filoni, Sean Levy, the rest of the team that starts telling these stories in the Star Wars universe, look within themselves what they need to tell the story that connects with the vast population is right here. It's in them. Just like my dumb little Facebook post that my editor said, oh no, people will connect with this. I didn't believe that.
Right.
And I was wrong. Is that this story from within, from the heart, actually resonated with a lot of other people's hearts. And they didn't say, fuck you, fuck your brother, fuck your grandma. They said, oh, I wish I could have watched this trailer with my uncle who took me to see the movies. Yeah. I wish I did the same thing. I called my sister and we watched it together on the phone. Like, everybody could connect to that story because it was universal. And so whatever Starfighter is, seems like there's a kid involved. You got Ryan Gosling as a Starfighter pilot. I don't know. Sean Levy has done a great job of telling father and son stories. An underrated movie, I think, is Real Steel. You know, with Hugh Jackman and the boxing robots and the kid, and the bond they connect over that. He's great at family stories, like This Is Where I Leave You. It's not a science fiction story, but it's about family coming together at a funeral and sorting out a lot of the troubles they've had in the past. Like, he's very good at those stories. The Adam Project, where the guy comes back and talks to his younger self. I could see. I think he has it within him to tell a really powerful story from the heart. He's working with Jonathan Tropper, the author of This Is Where I Leave You, to tell that story. So I think, I hope that this new generation of storytellers looks within themselves and pulls something meaningful from their own lives and then layers that Star Wars experience over there. If George Lucas had made a movie about a punk kid in California who didn't want to work at his dad's store, it would not be the phenomenon that Star Wars is. But because he gave it that fantastical, mythical element, it resonates even more powerfully. It's like applying a megaphone to the everyday. And we're all like, yeah, I don't want to be like my dad either. And then you get a little older, you get to be my age now, the age George was when he started writing those prequels. And if you look at the prequels, they're all about okay, Darth Vader was messed up, but how did he get that way? And what happened was George is middle-aged. He's got 3 kids of his own that he raised as a single father. His own father has passed away. And he starts to realize, I told my dad I didn't want to run his company. I didn't want to be like him. I now run 5 companies. I now have high expectations for my 3 kids and want them to do things that they don't want to do. I'm starting to see things from Darth Vader's point of view, and I'm not making movies, so I damn well better make a few more movies before my time is up. And he makes the prequels.
Right.
And I think critics didn't love those movies, but damn it, the fans sure did. Not all fans, and there's some people who love them and some people who don't love them. And
but how you're talking about Return of the Jedi, Empire, they weren't beloved how they're loved now. The prequels weren't loved, but now people adore them. They're sacred. It's like scripture. It's sacred. Media for them.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about the prequels was right now when they brought back Hayden Christensen, and he got a lot of people didn't like the prequels, and when those movies were recent, they weren't very well received. But now with those kids that grew up with those movies, have grown up and love that movie, and now they're going back and revisiting. And I just love that one when he came out. I forgot it was a Comic-Con or something, and he got so much love for Anakin Skywalker, and it felt like he was maybe kind of feeling bad that when he did them they weren't that well received, but now he's getting his due and the love of those kids that actually grew up with it and made it part of their lives, and that's their fun and nostalgia that they have, and they were able to kind of pass that love on to him, and he just felt like he just kind of came around full circle to okay, now people this is what it was, this is the appreciation. It just took a little while to get here.
Even when he was shooting Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, Hayden himself wasn't thrilled with how Anakin was playing out, and he was telling George can I play it a little more intimidating? He seems so whiny, and George was like, I want the whiny. This was George told him, I want that. And it's we all want Vader to always be, and Anakin to be this sort of intimidating intense badass. But if you look at Vaders from real history, these people who rise up in the ranks and they become a border patrol agent, let's say, who has great power to inflict pain on people or show mercy, and he chooses the pain, like this guy Gregory Bovino, who's in the news right now.
Yeah.
If you read the articles about his history, he was a dweeb. He was a geek. And like he was always trying to prove himself in tough man contests and all this stuff as a young man. And his father had killed a woman in a drunk driving crash. So the family was destitute from that. And it doesn't excuse his behavior now, his cruelty, his mercilessness. But when you read that, you're like, oh, this is somebody who had severe pain as a young man and was always trying to prove how tough he was and be strong. Yeah. And I think, again, I'm not trying to rationalize or justify that at all. But when I read those profiles of this guy who seems so awful and so unforgiving, inhumane, and you read about how are these figures formed? I think Anakin Skywalker, as he's depicted in the prequels, is a very realistic depiction of how a tyrant is formed. A tyrant is never strong. A tyrant is a terrified baby inside. That's why they have to inflict punishment on everybody and rule through force rather than benevolence. A tyrant is somebody who was needy and whiny and scrawny and decided they had to get tough in order to push back against the world, and they pushed too hard. I think George captured something there that maybe we didn't want to see. We wanted Vader to be cool. He never wanted Vader to be cool. Vader was always misguided. He didn't want people going, I want to be like Vader. And the tough, strong Anakin Skywalker, who's a badass Padawan, is the wrong message to send, you know? And I think he was right in his depiction of the character. I think George had insight into human nature. Now, is that the story people wanted? I don't think so, based on how they reacted to it. But I think maybe now they're warming up to it. And you know what? Kids know. Kids are aware. I found Jar Jar Binks to be annoying. I think he's annoying. But you know who else is annoying? Kids. Kids are annoying.
You both are fathers, so you can talk about this thing. You know?
Yeah. And Mark Ruffalo told me something really insightful about the Hulk. He said he was watching the old Bill Bixby Hulk TV show with his kids when he was getting ready to play the Hulk in the Avengers movie. And his kid really loved it. And he was like, okay, what do you love? Like, he's trying to pick his brain, you know? And the kid's like, well, nobody wants the Hulk around. Hulk makes a mess. Hulk is disruptive. They're always telling the Hulk to sit down and be quiet. And that's what they tell kids. Kids love the Hulk because the kids are the Hulk. They're not big and strong, but they make a mess. They cause chaos. They're needy, you know, and you're always trying to get them to sit still and stay put. But that's what kids love about the Hulk is the Hulk breaks free and everybody's like, oh, the Hulk again. Get what, you know, but even Bruce Banner doesn't want to be the Hulk, you know, and kids don't want to be the pain in the ass, but they can't help it. They got to go to the bathroom, you know, got to pull over. So I think Jar Jar Binks represents that for kids. And that's why kids love Jar Jar Binks. My son, when we were watching the prequels, and he was about 8 or 9 years old, we watched The Phantom Menace, and then we watched Attack of the Clones. And, you know, George really, he dialed back Jar Jar because there was such scorn for him after The Phantom Menace. But he's in the Attack of the Clones just a little bit. And when he first shows up and he does something goofy, my son he's watching the screen, he just shakes his head, he's got a big smile on his face, and he goes, I love that guy. And my wife and I looked at each other like, uh-oh, have we failed as parents? No, we find Jar Jar annoying. Anakin, young little boy Anakin, Jake Lloyd's Anakin, also he likes him because he's fun, he's nice,
funny, goofy, yeah.
He's well-meaning and but if you look at Qui-Gon Jinn in those movies, he is constantly like, shut up. Oh, God, shut up. He is so pissed off at Jar Jar. And I think you may not like Jar Jar as an adult, and that's okay. I don't like him stepping in poop and stuff like that. Like, I don't need that. But like things he does that I don't like too much. But I think kids do love him. And it's because kids know what it's like to be told, be quiet. I'm doing a podcast. Shut up. Stay upstairs. Like, so like my son was making pancakes right before this show. And I'm like, okay, I gotta do this thing. So don't clean up he was cleaning up the dishes and doing the right thing that I taught him to do. And I'm like, do that later. I got to do this show. I don't want to have noise in the background. He's like, okay. I'm like, I'm just thinking now, I was treating him the way Qui-Gon treats Jar Jar Binks, So I think like, as we're talking about Kathy, Dave, George, how people feel about these movies, it's okay to not like things, but maybe just step back and be a little less harsh. And if you're less harsh, maybe the creators will feel a little less pressure and they could take a few more chances. And if it doesn't always work for you, it's okay. It's okay if this thing or that thing doesn't work.
Content machine world we live in now, where it's like you can get so many clicks and views for like, this is going to destroy Star Wars in the headline. And now it's just the beast of it, which is unfortunate,
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people out there who get their attention from saying, oh, Star Wars is ruined. And it's okay not to like things. It's just, I think maybe just ease up. I think a good philosophy can be found in the Ivan Reitman film Stripes, when all the recruits are sitting around talking in the barracks. And the one guy says like, I forget what his nickname was, but his real name is Francis. He's like, if any of you guys call me Francis, I'll kill you. If any of you guys touch my stuff. Do you guys remember this scene? He's like, I'll kill you. If anybody does this or that, I'll kill you. And Sergeant Hulka leans back and goes, lighten up, Francis. I think we could all go for a little bit of lighten up, Francis,
Yeah. I think sometimes, we take some of these things a little too seriously. We want what we want. And, when we don't get that, it tends to, just, put you in a bad mood. But again, I think we got to lean more in the this is entertainment. This is like a fun way to enjoy and learn and just kind of see things from a different point of view sometimes, and yeah, I think, having a little bit more of that, like, let's not just kind of jump, up and scream if it's not exactly what we wanted it to be, would be, wise.
I think so, right? It's just a better way to live too. You don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes but again, I'm not saying people shouldn't criticize. You should criticize and talk about it. That's okay. It's just, if somebody else really loves it and you don't love it, maybe you don't have to convince them that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't work for me. I don't like Jar Jar. I don't like this kind of stuff in the movies, or I feel like this did a disservice. That's okay. That's totally within bounds. More than okay.
We get a lot of that stuff with the toys too. We review a lot of action figures and toys, and some people like love the way these toys were made, and they love the articulation and they love everything. And other people are like, I hate the way it was articulated. I don't like that you have visible joints and this and that. And that's fine. But like you said, you enjoy what you like. If you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to display it. There's other options out there.
Yeah. I write about the toys a lot in the Darth Vader book. I mean, I cover everything. It's Vader in the comics, Vader in the novels, Vader in toy form, Vader in the video games. It's the whole evolution of that character. We go chronologically from the early screenplay drafts to all the most recent things that feature Vader. And, I got this little guy. Let me see if I can get him up close. This is from the retro collection. So this isn't actually vintage, but it's when Hasbro put out the Kenner action figures a few years ago.
Yeah.
And if you could see, Vader has this retractable lightsaber that comes out of his wrist. And you slide it in, and it kind of looks like a birthday candle, right? Because it's got that it was meant to be telescoping. And then I think they chickened out on the telescoping, and they just made it so that it has this little this little thin part that comes out. And I never liked that as a kid because I felt like it was sort of it looked like a wick on a birthday candle or something. And when I saw these figures again in the retro collection, and he's very stiff, he only has the 4 joints. The head always breaks off easily. He's skinny. Vader is very skinny, but he's got this sort of vinyl cape. It doesn't really flow. When I saw this, it brought up all these happy memories, and I realized it didn't matter that there were flaws to the toy. It represented something. It was more of an abstract representation of Vader than a literal one,
Right.
And there are toys now that look just like Harrison Ford, or look just like Oscar Isaac, or look just like
they tried to do Oscar Isaac and they just butchered.
Did they blow it?
Yeah, like one looks like a mutated Benicio del Toro. One just doesn't like. I think the hot getting a little bit better though. So.
But there's the Black Series that has they're bigger and more.
Yeah, articulated.
But if you look at the original Han Solo toy from the first toy line, that doesn't look like Harrison Ford. Like, it looks like Dave Barry. It's not. That's not him. But it was like a symbolic representation of the character,
right?
Yeah,
and I think like that is that's okay. All right, that almost, I think. Maybe it's a little better when it doesn't look exactly realistic.
Right.
Just my theory.
There's technology now with action figures, and even on the small scale, where there's this company called InArt. They do a lot of Dark Knight figures, and I have the Bale Batman. The Bale likeness is one of the most outstanding likenesses I've ever seen on an action figure.
Wow.
It's literally just like him. I think there's a place where you can, you like. I think as collectors, we try to go for things that feel very accurate to what the source material is, but I also do love the abstract. And like, I have this amazing Egon from the real Ghostbusters.
Oh, sweet.
And it's just like the cartoon coming to life,
That does look like the real.
And it's just insane what they can do now in terms of this technology for action figures. But I also do love like the little vintage thing. Like, they still hold like a near and dear place, And I know with Ed, like his business with Hidden Temple, I mean, tons of vintage people, vintage action figures.
Yeah, I mean, some people are like that. They prefer, like you said, they want the more original figures, the abstract ones, the ones that weren't necessarily looking like the characters, but they just love those because those are the ones they had as kids. Those are the ones they want. There's much nicer, better ones that they could buy, but that's not their connection. Their connection is with the ones they had and that they enjoyed when they were kids.
As grown-ups, I think that's what we're chasing, is we want to go back and watch something that makes us feel like we did when we were young and discovered it for the first time. That feeling of going into the movie theater and here's a big window into a snowy world rather than a movie screen with miniatures and visual effects.
Right.
Like, we want that feeling, but it's hard to get that back. Too much. Like, you've already experienced it, so it's hard to create that novel feeling. And I was thinking Stranger Things and the rollout for the last season, how they did it at the holidays. Thanksgiving is the first drop of 4 episodes. Then Christmas Day is the next 3. And then New Year's Eve is the big finale.
Yeah.
And I thought, for my son was he was too little when those first came out, right? He was only like 5 or 6, too little for Stranger Things. But now he wants to watch it. So we rewatched all of the episodes, the whole series.
Yep.
And dovetailed just in time to pick up with the new things. And for him, and I think countless kids his age across the world, this season is marked by Stranger Things. Christmas and Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and New Year's 2025, New Year's 2026, is defined by Stranger Things.
Right.
And they're going to grow up and remember, like the way we do, the summer we saw Empire, the summer we saw Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Coming home from school to watch the real Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to remember this time and remember those movies. And remember when the new episodes dropped and we were waiting a whole month and then now they came out. That's a good feeling. And I think the Duffers gave me that feeling. My excitement to see the finale of Stranger Things was as high as any Star Wars movie, as high as any Marvel film. Avengers movie. It brings everybody together. And I think you showing me that Egon made me think of something else you said at the beginning, Ed, where you talked about like you'd play with the toys and then you would walk away and imagine the credits rolling.
Yeah.
Well, I did a story for Esquire where I talked to Matt and Ross about writing the finale and how they were in the throes of the season and they didn't have the finale written and they had to get away because if you're in Atlanta where they're shooting, like you're answering too many questions, you can never focus on the story. And they had to like disappear, hand off the direction to Sean Levy and Frank Darabont to do those middle episodes and go back and write.
Mm-hmm.
And they were telling me when they were kids, I think they're about your age. They're in their early 40s now. And so the real Ghostbusters and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were more present in their life than, say, Star Wars. They still liked Star Wars and all that, but that's what they would play with.
Right.
And they said they would get their Ghostbusters toys, and they knew a movie was 2 hours. So they would play for 2 hours, and they knew, oh, we're about an hour in. Like, this is what has to happen. And then they'd get to the end of 2 hours, and that would be the movie. And then the next time they came to play, it was a new movie, and maybe it connects, maybe it's a sequel or maybe it's a reboot, but it would be a new movie. And I was like, oh, so you would make a movie with like a video camera and have it set up there? Like, no, there's no video camera. We just thought we're just in it's just our living room floor. That was the movie. And I'm like, oh, but they had this cadence, this sense that a movie has to wrap up, so you better have things sort of come to a head, you know. And they did that because they had those real Ghostbusters toys.
That's awesome.
And I thought that was pretty special.
Cool.
Oh yeah,
it's a great way to connect. Speaking of toys and movies, Masters of the Universe just dropped a teaser. I think that's a good segue.
Yes,
pulled up here. What I don't know if you've covered any of the Motu stuff at all. I know you're a Motu fan. I see your He-Man figure right there.
Do you see it?
Yeah, he's just hanging out with you right there. Oh, you got
I got this guy, Battle Cat. So when I was a kid, first and second grade, He-Man was pretty huge. He'd race home from school to watch that after classes ended. And I'm Catholic, so we have this thing called First Communion, you know. And when you're like in second grade, you do confession, then you get First Communion, and it's not like a bar mitzvah, but a little bit like that. Like it's sort of like you know, you're taking a step deeper into the faith and being a grown up. And as going through this transition as a young man, the thing I wanted more than anything was Battle Cat. So I got Battle Cat for my First Communion. I already had He-Man, but I got Battle Cat, and I got this guy, Triclops.
Yes.
So these are the original toys, and the unfortunate thing about these guys is that their legs are connected in the torso with essentially a hair tie, right? Like a black rubber band.
Yep.
And this guy, and so that rubber decays and dries out over the course of 40 years. And so the legs tend to pop off these bad boys. So if you have one with the legs connected, like I have Manny faces upstairs. And what I did was I turned my old Castle Grayskull into a planter. Like it's not in great condition. It wouldn't resell for anything. Awesome. But I have I'm like, oh, I could stick my little houseplants in here in my office, and it kind of grows and looks cool. And so I have the action figures hanging out in there. And then I don't feel too bad if it's sort of decayed or cracked or broken. But my Manny faces, I just took him out of the plant, and he's been standing in there for a couple of years now, and his legs just fell right off.
You got to send me a picture of that. I want to see that Castle Grayskull.
They do sell replacement rubber parts for that. They're kind of a pain to put in, but I've actually repaired a few of them.
Replacement kits for rubber bars, Roland says. So
yeah, but you gotta take them apart, and then sometimes they don't fit back together again.
Oh, it's a pain. I've done a few, and they're hard. They do them for GI Joes too, which are much easier to do. But man, those He-Man ones, it's a pain.
Let's talk about this trailer a little bit, man. Ed, what were your thoughts when you first saw the trailer? I know you were pretty.
I was pleasantly surprised. You know, I mean, I've heard they were making this movie. I heard they wrapped. I heard the cast. You know, I was excited about the people that were in it. So I was like, hey, I'm interested to see what this will look like. You know, I didn't have like huge expectations because you know it just seemed like there wasn't a lot of hype behind it. which made me just feel like maybe there's just it's not going to be anything special. But the trailer hit, and I mean, all I could think about is how well this looked. It's like it actually looked and felt like He-Man, and I was like, this looks really good. It's like the sword wasn't like a weird, different, design. It actually looked like the power sword. He-Man looked like even Prince Adam. I like that they didn't have to go with like a skinny Prince Adam, kind of how like did in the 2000X, where he just was like a kid and then he turned to this like huge barbarian guy. I like that he was like the Prince Adam from the original cartoon, where he was just like already buff, just wore like the clothes over it.
Yeah,
and like little things like that just really excited me. I was like, man, this does feel like the original He-Man cartoon. And then it just kept coming, and visually it looked and felt really good, felt like He-Man, and I got excited, man. And I think a lot of people shared that they were like, this could actually be something really, really fun. And like right now I'm just like super excited to see more of this, and I can't wait to watch it just because I love the way they did it. And I think it might have that kind of nostalgia that people want, and just kind of add some new modern things to it. I kind of see how they rework the story a little bit, and like him going to Earth instead of his mom coming from Earth. And so I mean, obviously I guess she has a connection to Earth, but I don't know, I feel like it's going to be a good way to kind of reinterpret He-Man, but also give us like the classic nostalgic He-Man that we've been wanting to see.
And they show the shot. I mean, they have this. I mean, look.
I mean, that was one of the big ones, and I'm like, that literally looks like they just superimpose like realistic, film over the actual cartoon render of the I Have the Power. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
this is the movie I wanted to see when that Dolph Lundgren one came out.
Right.
And I actually really like Frank Langella's Skeletor.
Me too. I like that Skeletor. I like Langella's Skeletor.
And I think there are things about that movie that were good, and there are a lot of people who love it and feel nostalgic about it. But you can't deny that movie said, we can't really, the producers of that movie were like, well, we're not going to spend a lot of money on Eternia. Let's bring this Muscle Man and the weird creatures to Earth, and we'll how about we shoot in Santa Monica instead? And like, I like that instead they're taking Adam from Earth and bringing him to this sort of magical king. That's a classic Alice in Wonderland move. That's classic storytelling. And, when I saw Thor Ragnarok years ago, something about the vibe of that, it had more of a sense of humor than the other Thor movies. And it had this weird mix of science fiction, but also felt a little medieval. Yeah. And I was like, this would be, Taika Waititi should do a Masters of the Universe movie, because that's what that needs. It needs a sense of humor about itself, because you got a hero named He-Man, which is ridiculous. And I really love the nameplate that says he, him. It's got his pronouns on there.
That's a great little gag right there.
I think I don't think it's making fun of like I've seen people get mad. They're like, oh, it's woke. It's this, that, the other. And then other people have been mad that they're like, oh, they're making fun of pronoun. I don't think that either of them are correct. That pronouns thing is a common thing. You see it in email signatures. You see it all over the place.
Right.
It's just a sort of funny way of saying, it's he, him, it's He-Man.
I thought it was more of a play off of He-Man than anything.
He-Man, so it's just kind of playing off that kind of thing,
That's it. It's just a little joke about some kind of a new phenomenon in our culture. And like, that's where like people were getting like up in arms about it. And I'm like on both sides of it. And just like, it's a very tame, non-offensive, not meant to hurt anybody joke. Just have a laugh and move on. But people were loaded for bear. They're hypersensitive about whether it's woke, whether it's making fun. It's not making fun. It's not woke. It's just, whatever that means. It's just.
Not everything has to be so politicized. Sometimes it can just be
Francis,
a light show. Exactly. I know, Francis. Let's just enjoy some fun nostalgia.
I've also seen on Facebook like these He-Man groups where they're like, wow, Skeletor, I fixed it. I added like the cross armor to his chest. And it's like, like he doesn't have that here, but in the toy he does. And I'm like, okay, this is about as close to the toys and the animated show as you could get. Like it's okay to say like, that's cool. I thought the Beast Man leaping on top of the car, he looked really cool. I thought Idris Elba as Man-at-Arms looked really cool.
That was
Now,
awesome because he was always my fan cast for a good Man-at-Arms, and so I'm so happy that he's there.
he's got that world-weary, like tough, like your tough dad who gets home from the steel mill and like sits down and takes his boots off vibe about him, you know. And I love that about Man-at-Arms. He's a soldier, you know. He's got to be.
Yeah.
But there were people who were like, "Oh, his armor isn't orange enough," and I'm like, "Oh, dude, it's like it's so clear there's some orange paint on that armor, but like."
Yeah.
It doesn't have to look exactly like the cartoon, but this is pretty much a realistic.
I was like
action, you know, look.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like right on. I was like, yes, this looks like He-Man, you know, and obviously it's live action, and people are designers, and they're gonna want to change up little things here and there to make it, you know, work. And you know, I don't mind that little things could be missing or changed as long as the essence of it is right and it looks correct. I'm excited.
One of the things that I think when you're a kid and you don't get a toy, sometimes that creates a vibe, or it leaves a hole, it leaves an impression on you.
Oh, I see.
Even more than the toy you have. And the one I didn't have was Trapjaw. I always liked Trapjaw. And if you remember the commercials for the toys he had like a little loop in his head that you could run a string through, and Trapjaw could like slide down the string. I was always like, that's so cool. And I liked his look, like that sort of like mousetrap.
Like a little bear trap jaw on the bottom.
He also had a kind of Frankenstein vibe about him because he had a green face but a blue body, which made me think like, oh, it looks like he's put together with a bunch of different pieces, you know, like. And he's got the mechanical arm,
he's got the cybernetic parts.
And when you see him in the trailer, you know, you only catch a glimpse, but like he's got the like crimson helmet, or I don't know what that is, like a kind of purplish helmet, the green face, the blue torso, the mechanical arm. And I was like, I ordered this guy off of eBay. So now I have my own Trapjaw. He's joining the planter community.
That's awesome. It's true. I mean, we have so many people coming in buying figures that they never got as kids. They're like, I always wanted this Voltron as a kid, and I was never able to get it, so I'm buying it for myself now. You know, people want to go back and find those things that they wanted, and because they need to fill that hole that they had as children.
What do you have in the shop that is like your holy grail at the moment?
Oh, there's so many really great pieces. Right now, there's so many great pieces we come in, but right now there's actually a cartoon that came out in like the mid 2000s called Zoids that used to be actually probably early 2000s. That was really fun because you could build these like it was called a Liger, and it's like a robotic looking lion tiger looking thing, but they would be like models that you could slap over this like little like mechanical working body. And so once you put all the pieces on it, you could turn it on and it would walk and roar and stuff. It was really, really fun. And we have some vintage ones that we got into the store, which are really, really awesome. But there was always an armor type that I didn't get called the Jaeger Liger, and we just got a new version of that into the store. So I keep begging my wife to let me bring it home, and she's like, "No, not yet." Maybe if it sits around for a while, but we got to sell it.
Well, you know, the trailer has so many cool Easter eggs in it too. Like when he goes into that shop and he's trying to take the sword off of that display, and there's the woman working in the shop, and behind her there's like a box for something called like Big Jim.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? And what I thought was cool about that is, so here you got Battle Cat. I'm going to use my props again. Battle Cat doesn't move. It's just like the legs are locked in place. This is just a statue, right? Essentially of a cat.
Yeah.
Well, it's huge, and Big Jim was like a G.I. Joe sized action figure, right? Old school G.I. Joe, not the 80s ones, but like the sort of Barbie sized. Yeah, and totally. If you have a Barbie beside this, the proportions are about accurate to what a tiger or a human would be, you know? But for He-Man, this tiger is gigantic, right? Like it's a huge cat. So they were concerned, the toy designers had done this Big Jim line. There it is. And like they had Big Jim as this sort of Barbie-sized G.I. Joe figure with the large tiger. And they're like, well, the tiger, getting toys approved for sale means you've got to like, I think you have to like show the government that it's not going to break and choke a kid to death. Like, there's a lot of approvals and like lawyers and like safety inspectors who have to sign off on it. So if it's already signed off on, that means you can use that as a model and sell it without having to go through that process again. So they repaint the tiger from Big Jim with green stripes. They dust him with some sort of felt. I'm not even sure what that process was for Panther, which is
flocking.
Skeletor's. Yeah, the flocking. How do they do that? Do they cover the thing in glue and then dip it in some kind of powder? Or
I think so. I think there's also like, and I don't know if they use it for anything. I know they used to do this with the G.I. Joe, the Adventure Team, where they had the fuzzy heads. It's like electromagnetic thing. So it's like they put glue on the head and then they put this powder with this like electromagnetic thing that makes it all stand up.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if they use that same process or it's like small enough
there it is.
sticks to it. Yeah.
So that you look at that, that's Battle Cat, but repainted green.
Yeah.
But I love that the trailer puts a Big Jim in there. Like, to me, that's a signal that Travis Knight, the director of this, he cares about this.
Yeah.
He cares enough to know. Like, most people are going to look at that and they're not going to register it, right? They're not going to know. But for the hardcore fans,
exactly right. It's not for them.
Yeah,
and that I think is the right kind of joke, right? Because
exactly right.
There'll be a lot. Like, I remember seeing the Minecraft movie with my son, and I don't play Minecraft, but he and the other kids are laughing at stuff, and I'm like, I don't get it, but that's okay. It's okay to have things play on different levels. And this, I thought, look, they even got pink. They even got the pink shirt for Prince Adam, which is what he always wore.
And the statue is the original design, I think, for He-Man too. The Mark Taylor, right?
Yeah, like
that's a Frank Frazetta version. Yeah, because he was supposed to be it was based off barbarian stuff, which Frank Frazetta was very popular with back then.
It's like Turok, isn't it, or something like that? Am I remembering?
I'm not exactly sure. And another thing was that He-Man was supposed to be a Conan the Barbarian type of figure. I think it was for Conan, but they thought it would be Conan was too violent for kids, so they changed it up and they're like, let's just use these barbarians, but make it into something else, and that's how He-Man was kind of put together.
Man, He-Man sure set some impossible body standards, though. Didn't
sure did.
Holy cow!
That was really funny. There was recently someone was telling me about a meme they saw. It was like Barbie, was criticized for creating too many body standards for girls, and then they're like, but then there was He-Man, like nobody cares about how massive he was, and boys trying to bodybuild like that, which is funny.
Another Easter egg. Torak is on top of that shelf in the background. So, like you said, I mean, for my money, he did the best Transformers movie out there.
Bumblebee is fantastic.
Right. Yeah. And you see the love and the passion he clearly has for the 80s. I mean, he's probably like around our age as well. And so he grew up with all this stuff. And so he's obviously the perfect person to do Motu. I think he said he wants to do Thundercats as well.
That'd be amazing. I think so many people would want that. And a lot of people said that if this He-Man does well, they would hope it would open the door for Thundercats, which I am a massive Thundercats fan. So I would totally be on board.
Well, I remember doing I moderated the Comic-Con panel for Bumblebee.
Oh, great.
And I think whenever I do a Comic-Con panel, I always try to wear a Mask t-shirt because I feel like Mask is underrepresented. You guys remember Mask?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they're re-releasing them right about now.
Yeah. But it was only around for like 2 years. It didn't have the life of G.I. Joe or the Transformers or even Masters of the Universe. But like, man, I brought this down off the shelf. I got to dust my toys, man. They're getting a little weary. Awesome. But like, this was the Mask jet car that pops open its gull wings and becomes a jet. This was my favorite one. This was the 57 Chevy, the Hurricane that turns into like a tank. Awesome. That's a cool one with Hondo inside. Very neon colors, and but that I keep waiting for that to come back, but I feel like maybe that's too obscure. It just doesn't have the same.
I don't know. I mean, I think the story would be cool for a modern movie, and it has a little bit of a basis of fandom there. So who knows?
Well, I mean, Loyal Subjects is they just relaunched.
Yeah, they're the one re-releasing them, so maybe that'll create enough excitement to have a studio look at the property.
I mean, with He-Man though, like Motu, it's been it's been dormant for a little bit, but it had its moment in 2000.
Oh yeah, there's been a He-Man script flown around for years and years and never get made. Everyone's like, the He-Man movie's coming, and then they would disappear, and then it's like the He-Man movie's back, and then it would disappear.
Well, there was that great animated series. I think it was in 2002.
Yeah.
They called it 2000 X-Line, which was amazing. I love that version.
Is this the same one I'm thinking of, where it shows like the origins of Skeletor, that he
with Keldor and all that stuff. Yep, that was a really popular one.
But it wasn't, because it only lasted like 12
well
episodes.
I think the problem is that it just didn't have like enough viewership. I don't know if it was the time they played it or I remember reading something about that there was issues when it was being broadcast, and it only lasted for like 2-3 seasons, but the people who watched it, I mean, I haven't talked to one person who's actually seen it that didn't love it. Yeah,
it's excellent. I think it didn't have, it was too soon. It was only like 20 years after the Masters of the Universe had been in its heyday, and I think it was too soon that the nostalgia wasn't there for it. But if that came out, the more recent stuff that Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin are doing with He-Man on Netflix, that stuff I think hit at the right time where people really wanted. There it is. Yeah.
So I was a huge fan.
What is that? Is that a book or is that the DVD?
No, these are the DVDs. There's Volume 1, Volume 2, and then the third volume, which was the Snake Men.
Sweet.
So this was one of my favorite iterations of He-Man. Needless to say, I have a lot of the figures and everything, and so it's really cool. We're actually waiting for a company called Mondo that's about to do an amazing 1/12th iteration of these figures. That they're just going to be incredible.
Like we talk about, like the same company that does the Real Ghostbusters Egon that I showed you, they're doing these Motu ones, which are outstanding. I want to bring up the
they also did an incredible one I can show.
Yeah, there's this one here, which is a Skeletor they're doing, which just looks absolutely it looks just like the cartoon come to life.
That's even more detailed than the cartoon. Like, you got to admit that the maybe that looks like the more modern cartoon, but those old Filmation ones, dude, they would shoot, like they would make like a reel of He-Man running or laughing or talking, and they would use the same clip over and over again on different backgrounds. It was like they create like almost cues, right? Oh my gosh.
So this is that same company who actually does Masters of the Universe stuff, and they've been doing it for a while. And this is a 1/6 scale Battle Cat and He-Man, which is probably one of my favorite things that they've ever done. And this thing is massive, and like I really like the He-Man when he came out. This is the second iteration they did of He-Man, and he's like super articulated. He comes with like all the accessories. You can make him look like a lot of the versions of the toy line. But I think the star of the show is this massive Battle Cat. He just has all his armor, just super, super detailed, super articulated. So this is probably one of my favorite things they've done. But this is kind of like their own like interpretation of He-Man, which is really phenomenal.
Yeah.
Big Jim ain't got shit on that one.
Maybe Mondo does a Big Jim. They bring it back somehow.
There you go. That could be one.
We're going back in time and doing all these things. Cool, man. We're talking Star Wars. We're talking Motu. We didn't even get to MCU. We wanted to talk Oscars, but I think we got to bring you back on another time so we can kind of.
I'd love to come back on anytime. It's a pleasure to chat with you guys. I hope I didn't run my mouth too much, but it was
not at all.
You ran it just
great.
right, man.
Yeah, it was amazing. Thank you for being on. I mean, you shared some incredibly amazing stories with us, some very touching ones. And I'm super excited for your book. It looks like it's going to be a really, really interesting and fun read. So I hope a lot of
Star Wars Darth
people
Vader.
pick it up, because I know I would be.
What's that?
It's called Star Wars Icon Darth Vader.
Yeah, you know what? It's a lot of money, and that worries me a little. But it's huge. It really is like a mega book. Like my son could barely lift it when we saw the prototype at Comic-Con. So what I'm saying is, get your kids to buy it for you. If you're a dad, because it has all these fatherhood stories in it. Like I have a good friend of mine from college. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to order the book, and my kids, we love Star Wars, so we're going to share it." I was like, "Get them to buy it for you for Father's Day," because it's too much money for you. But but I hope people find it worth it. I think it's a huge meal of a book. Like, you know, you could sit down and read pieces of it over many years. It took a long time to write, and we cover Vader from inception to the present day. And I think you're going to find, you know, there's just cool stories throughout that I could, I know we were out of time, and I've already told a lot, but like just the individual people who contributed to Darth Vader, everybody has a story, and they all put a piece of themselves into that character. And I think that's why we all feel that there's something about Vader that speaks to us in some way or another. So I hope people enjoy the book. It's out for pre-order now. Get your kids to pay for it, or get somebody else to buy it for you.
Father's Day in June.
Father's Day present.
You know, like to buy it together.
You know, at Christmas time, I made a video urging people, if you need a last minute gift for somebody, I made a little certificate. You remember the early bird certificate for the Star Wars toys that didn't make it for Christmas of '77, and moms and dads could give you this gift certificate that had the picture of the toys, and when they're out in the spring, you can redeem it. So I was like, here, I made the same. I took that card of the old action figures and the little slash thing on it that would say like, hey, you're going to get these action figures in the spring, and rewrote it to say, you'll get this book in the spring there it is. That's the thing I put out there. Awesome. I was like, all you got to do is print this out, stuff it in an envelope, and say like, this is, you get the early bird certificate for the Vader book, and pre-order it. But I just put this out there. Like, you could technically print this out and put it in a card and not pre-order the book. But then my rationale was, but you've promised it to somebody, so you better order it.
Right now you got it. You're committed.
No takes you back to the.
You know, if you want to save up, you don't have the money right now. Like, but I hope people love it. A lot of love was put into the book. I hope people get a lot of love out of it.
I think they will.
Appreciate it. Well, Anthony, man, thank you so much for joining us and talking Star Wars and everything in between. We got to have you back on. There's so much more.
I'll come back anytime. You know,
man, awesome. I love it. Thanks for joining. Appreciate everyone watching. Ed, did you love those figures he showed? Those vintage ones?
I would love them. I mean, I want the one with the planter and the missing legs.
You would want those, but the problem is those figures not included. Not included, man. You can't get those. Yeah, maybe next time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
you, everybody.
Appreciate it.